so imagine, it's Russia. You're in a village. It's 30 years, something like that, after the serfs have been emancipated. There's a few agriculturalists who've managed to produce successful agricultural enterprises. And maybe they have a couple of cows, they have some land, they're able to hire a few people, and they're raising almost all the food, right? And they're a minority in any village because the hyper-productive, successful are always a minority. So they're a minority in every village. All right, and there's people who are doing worse, and then there's a lot of people who aren't doing so well at all. And then the communist intellectuals show up and they tell the people who aren't doing so well, some of whom are just suffering because of life, but some of whom aren't doing well because they've never done anything productive with even a second of their life. And the communist intellectuals come in and say, those guys that are doing so much better than you? Yeah, they actually stole all of that from you. And you're morally obligated to go take it back. It's like, oh man, after 6 cups of mead, let's say 10, or let's say 20, and I'm drunk out of my mind, and I've got my cruel buddies with me, and we're all resentful right to the core because we've wasted our miserable lives, and now we have an opportunity to go down the street to our wealthy neighbor's house and to rape his daughters, and we can do it in the name of good. It's like, well, there's a story you can market. And that happened everywhere in the Soviet Union.
You work for Amazon, don't you? You work for Amazon, don't you? Because the majority of people that live in the Central District now work for Amazon because it's an easier commute to downtown for them. Well, guess what? The guy you work for is part of the fucking problem, too. So let's not act like you just are oblivious to the shit because you knew about it all along and you were okay with it. But guess what? We're not. And we're bringing it to your front fucking door. So what the fuck do you plan to do about it?
Brilliant.
Yep. I'm a farmer.
Brilliant.
The Ukraine was the breadbasket of Europe. Mm-hmm. That's what it was. Mm-hmm. Then it became a region pathetically unable to feed itself. And yet, the same sort of worldview that gave rise to that, we're now being told, you use the word neo-Marxist. Many people in Australia use the word cultural Marxist. I've got an old friend who said to me, what are you talking about, John? Free capitalist Australia is not going to let that happen here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, Qantas Airlines took a nice step towards that the other day, and they adopted their language policing policies. These corporations who should know far better let these far left fifth columns into their organizations. They think they're not going to pay for that. They think they're going to stop with some demands for the reconstruction of language. Not like the demands for reconstruction of language, by the way, are trivial. They're maybe the most important thing you could possibly demand, right? I want to reshape the way you speak. I want to reshape the way you think. It's like, well, that's okay, as long as it doesn't interfere with the bottom line. It's like, it'll interfere with the bottom line. You let that fifth column in. It's a warning to corporate people. You let that fifth column in, man, you're going to regret it. You're going to regret it. So, and things can turn on a dime, a very well-organized minority, even if the majority opposes them, and they do. A very well-organized minority can have an unbelievably pernicious effect on an organization.
Margaret Mead's made that point.
Mm-hmm.
Societies change direction when a small group of people decide to change its direction. That's the way history works.
Well, that's what happened in the universities.
Let's come back. This issue of the redefining of language. Mm-hmm. It seems to me that there are two things that people who want to reshape society in brutal ways do. The first is they start to silence good debate. Either silence it or shut it down or whatever. Second thing they do is they redefine language so it's very hard to have a debate. Mm. So diversity, actually, there's no other way to put it. In this country, it's rapidly coming to mean a stifling conformity. You dare not deviate from the line. And you see it with a whole lot of other words that are bandied around, equality being one of them.
Yep.
Because it's confused. Equality of opportunity is confused with equality of outcome.
Well, the initial wedge was equality of opportunity, and then that flu, and so, well, no, it's equality of outcome. That's equity. And that's, I cannot believe how rapidly that idea, which is the ultimate in terrible ideas, I can't believe how rapidly that's spread and how little people criticize it. Well, that's because to uninformed analysis, it sounds good if you're feeling carelessly compassionate.
Because you go back to the Ukrainian example, in destroying the leading edge farmers, you actually guaranteed misery for everyone.
Oh, unbelievable. People were selling human body parts in the Ukraine for food. You know, it was, if you were a mother and your children were starving and you went out into the fields after they were harvested and you picked up individual pieces of grain that the harvesters had left and you didn't turn them over to the state, that was a capital offense, right? That was, and the funny thing is that was in the glory days of the Russian Revolution, right? That wasn't in the like 1950s. That wasn't in the 1930s even. That was in the 1920s. That was right when this started. And I think it was Malcolm Muggeridge who was reporting on that for a UK newspaper whose name escapes me at the moment. He was pointing all of this out, you know, and no one paid attention to it.
No one paid attention. Towards the end of his life, he warned that the West is in danger of eating itself out from within. And I wonder whether, in fact, he wasn't being very prescient. And you and I want to stop that happening for the sake of our young people, as much as anything else, for the sake of everyone.
We went down that pathway already. Like, we don't need to do it again.
We've tried it.